We are back this week continuing Joel Richardson's amazing adventure to Mount Sinai. When Joel first said that he was going to be going into Saudi Arabia and asked if we could get together with Jim and Penny Caldwell to get the details on this, I thought, you know, the last time I talked with Jim and Penny and them going in, they said they would never go back. They risked their lives. They thought they were going to die on the last trip. But when I heard that Joel was going in, and knowing some of Joel's background, I thought, if anybody has the guts to go into Saudi Arabia, this is the man. Joel, you've spent some time on the Golan Heights. You've been into Kurdistan. You've been all over that part of the world. You're familiar with the mentality of the Middle East. Tell us a little bit about. I understand that you were not that long ago up on the Golan Heights. Tell us about that adventure.
Yeah, well, no, I work with a ministry called Frontier Alliance International, FAI, and it's a fantastic ministry, really just sort of a mainstream evangelical Christian missions organization. We were doing work in Kurdistan with the Peshmerga, that's the Kurdish military, during the liberation of Mosul from ISIS.
And so you're going beyond the battery, really, going into combat areas.
Yeah, we were sending in teams across the red line, and again, we had gained their trust. See, I'm of the opinion that the closer that we come to the return of Yeshua, the more that crisis is going to spread and explode all over the world, right? He told us very clearly, like birth pains, these things are going to increase in frequency and intensity, and therefore, you know, missionaries, typically they go to a particular people group, they learn the culture, the language, they give themselves to that place. Well, nowadays we have this whole field opening up called crisis. So we need to look for crisis rather than just getting caught up in the political debates over, you know, the refugee crisis. Yeah, I mean, we can get into all the politics, but where is the gospel opportunity? Where is the opportunity to share the good news with those who are perishing? Because that's the essence of the heart of God. So those are the places that we go. I believe, you know, when ISIS swept across Syria and Iraq, I said, if Yeshua was here ministering today, I have a feeling he'd be in northern Iraq, you know, because this is the needy, the poor, the afflicted, the hated, the marginalized, etc. So this is where we focus. So we were there a couple of years with FAI, northern Iraq. Doors kind of closed. The liberation of Mosul largely wrapped up. They shut down the airports, etc. Another door opened up in northern Israel. This is an awesome story. I think it's one of the greatest stories right now in our time. A few years ago, after the civil war breaks out in northern Syria, this IDF, Jewish, working with the Israeli Defense Forces colonel, he looks at southern Syria and he said, you know, why should we be so focused on traditional methods of warfare rather than sending in missiles and so forth? Maybe we should actually help these people. These are our neighbors. You know, I think this is God inspiring someone, and so
This is a colonel in the IDF, Israeli Defense Force.
Yep. Not a believer in Yeshua, you know, at the time, and they were coming to the fence, and they needed medical help, and so he was bringing them in, giving them medical treatment, but you know, it's sensitive because a lot of the Israelis don't want Syrians coming in, that's their war sort of thing. And so my friend Dalton, Thomas that runs FAI, he heads it up. He leaves Iraq and he goes up there to the Golan. He starts talking to Lieutenant Colonel Marcos, and he said, well, how can we help you? You know, what can we do? And he said, well, look, he said, what we really need to do, it's good that we're bringing people in. What we need to do is send teams into Syria. Well, Syria is the most dangerous country in the world right now, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so Dalton said, we can do that. Let's do that. And so a historical partnership has been formed. This is the Israeli Defense Forces. This is the only partnership they have with an openly Christian missions organization. What they've been doing is partnering together. So yeah, just several weeks ago, I was up there on the Golan at a little IDF military base, and we were sending in a doctor actually into southern Syria. He was a young guy from South America, married. That day, his wife sent him a video of his daughter, a little baby, walking for the first time. And he just got out of medical school. He and his wife agreed. They said, let's tithe the first 3 months of our lives into Syria.
Wow.
And he said, I'm going to go serve the Syrians in Syria. So anyway, you've got Jews, you've got the IDF partnering with Christians to go in, to risk their lives to serve Sunni Muslims in southern Syria. And this has been going on now for about a year and a half. Just now, a few weeks ago, at the time of this recording, the U.S. government worked out a deal with the Russians, and so they had to evacuate. There's now some regrouping, making plans for the future. But this thing in Syria is not going away. This is going to be the next several years. So I can think of few projects in the earth right now that have God's fingerprint all over it more than what FAI is doing with the IDF.
Now, you have really developed a friendship, an affinity with the Muslims and ministering to them, and doors opening up because of that. And now with Israel stepping in and wanting to help the Sunni Muslims who are being afflicted in this war, what's going on there? Is there a change in attitude of the Muslims for the Israelis?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and that's the whole purpose of this. You could look at it cynically and just say, well, this is just counterinsurgency. It's just making friendly neighbors, but it's not. This is a real, this is a love project. I'll give you an example. So there's one of the leaders in one of the Syrian villages. I'll just call him Mahmoud, change his name. But you have to understand, in the southern Syria, this is where the protests began against Assad, President Assad of Syria, that led to what has now become a civil war with well over 500,000, close to 1 million people dead. So Assad is furious with the Sunnis in the south. But again, they were oppressed and so forth. So, you have to understand Assad has some legitimate reasons to be upset, but they had some legitimate reasons to protest. He brought the hammer down. It resulted in a civil war. So Assad is an Alawite. That's a sect of Islam that is most closely aligned with Iran, that are Shia. So you've got the Shia, the minority sect, about 15% of the Islamic world. Sunnis, about 85% of the Islamic world. Down there in southern Syria, they're Sunni. So Assad's been taxing the living daylights out of these people their whole lives. And he goes, the reason that we're taxing the daylights out of you is because we need to have a strong military to protect you from the evil Israelis, right? And that Jew hatred kind of thing, that sells. But now, over the past few years, the Israelis have been saving them, have been ministering to them, have been being good neighbors. And now, as a result, again, these Christians in partnership, FAI in partnership with the IDF, laying down their lives. And just recently, my friend Dalton was there and he interviewed Mahmoud and he sat down with him and, he said, how do you feel about the Israelis? And he said, I love the Israelis. I love the Israelis. They're safe.
This is a Sunni Muslim saying this.
This is a Sunni Muslim. He said, I love it. He said, I was raised my whole life to think they were evil. He said, now that I'm getting to know them, now that I see it's Assad that's trying to kill us, it's the Israelis that are saving our lives. I love the Israelis. That's the hand of God.
Yeah, that is. Well, that, you in this intense environment over there, now I can see you going down into Saudi Arabia. This is kind of a piece of cake. It's almost a vacation getting out of that hot spot over there. But take us, now we're going back to Mount Sinai. We've been on the mountain. We've been in the cave of Elijah with you. We've looked down on the altar of sacrifice that where the blood covenant was made, and now we've got some more things to show the people, do we not?
Yeah. So when you get down, you get to Moses' altar. I'm just going to guess it's 300 or 400 yards away. It's hard to know how far we walked, but is what we believe is the altar that was the altar of the golden calf. And again, if you were just to imagine this in your mind, if you're just reading Sunday school, Bible, children's Bible, this is where you would imagine it would be. It's kind of right there at the foot of the mountain. Moses comes down, he sees this whole thing. And so here are some pictures. There's this massive pile of rocks. I mean, it's large. It's big enough that you can see it from the top of the mountain. And you get down there, and I know a lot of people have seen some of these pictures because they've been on the internet. These are pictures that I took. So here's one. And you can see that all over the rocks of this big giant, And it is a table, by the way. You can see there's a fairly flat space on the top that would have been where the calf idol would have been placed. So here's a carving of a cow. And here's another one. It's a little bit different. And I'm going to show you a picture here as well that is different. Now, these carvings are called petroglyphs because they're chiseled. They're chiseled through what is called desert varnish. This is a type of microbial process that happens. It's dark on the outside of the rock. You chisel through it to the lighter rock underneath, and they make these petroglyphs, these carvings into the rocks. Well, here's one going back a few episodes earlier. I showed you the paintings of the archers on the rocks that I found.
Right.
Looks like it's done with some type of ochre paint. Well, this is a picture a lot of people have not seen. Again, it's a painting of a cow, and this is also, it's sort of on a part that you can't see if you're on the outside of the fence.
Right, you had to get behind the chain link fence, which we haven't seen a lot of photographs of that. You know, we've seen photographs and videos through the chain link fence, but you got on the other side.
No, I didn't go on
okay.
No, someone else did. I don't even know.
All right, we won't talk about that.
Yeah, no, but someone gave me this picture.
Okay.
But the point is this, no, I didn't violate. We kept all the laws.
I'm sure you did.
So, but yeah, someone else got this. So, but the point is this, it's painted. This is not carved like the other, the petroglyphs. This is whoever the people are who painted the archers are the same peoples who also painted this cow. That's important. So on this golden calf altar, you've got some of the petroglyphs. You've also got pictures of the cows. Now, again, the reason this is important is because the Hebrews had left Egypt. And in Egypt, they worshipped Apis, they worshipped Hathor. They worshipped these calf and cow bull gods. And so it's very natural to then see if this is the place where they came and then they entered back into worshiping these idols, that we would find evidence of it. And again, that's exactly what we find. We find something that seems to be an altar that has residual evidence of pagan, idolatrous Hathor and Apis worship. So now, I'll show you another picture.
Oh, that's beautiful. This is, and this really solved the mystery which the rabbis were debating. Why does the scripture say, "These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought you out of the land of Egypt," when there was one golden calf? It's because they put the golden calf on top of this altar where all these depictions of Apis and Hathor, where they chiseled their gods that brought them out of the land of Egypt. And here you are, right there on the spot.
Yeah, so now this particular carving is outside of the fence. That's why I'm standing right next to it. And but I'm going to point something out to you. So just to the left of my right arm, you can see a little person, and they're underneath the cow. It looks like they have their hands up. Now, what this is this is a picture of what that person is doing. It's kind of grotesque. Is actually nursing at the udders of the cow. Okay, so we've got pictures identical to that in Egypt. This was part of the process of this worship. And so there was a whole process. They would dance around the bulls, and there was this big, that's why it says the children, they ate, they drank, and then they rose up to play. And there was a big sort of festival, a celebration. And interestingly, there's a bit of just history that eventually that Egyptian and Cretan worship of the bulls, eventually it made its way to Europe where it became bullfighting. And then here in the United States, rodeo actually historically derived. Now, I'm not saying if you go to the rodeo that you're a pagan, but that is the history of it all. As long as the barbecue's beef, we're okay with the rodeos. So yeah, for sure. I mean, you've got the residual evidence. You've got the residual evidence. And again, the skeptics can say, well, that's just one more piece of coincidence. The altar, the pillars, the golden calf altar, all of these things are just coincidences, but the coincidences most certainly just continue to add up.
While we're pausing here at the altar to the golden calf, let's go back and rehearse what you began last week. Moses came down from the mountain, saw the golden calf. The Almighty said, "Stand back, I'm going to kill them all." And Moses interceded for us. But Moses, what did he do with the golden calf again? Let's go through that.
Yeah, no, it's important. Again, everything that Moses did had a very specific meaning. First thing he did is he smashed the tablets, right? He broke if you will, the marriage covenant. He broke the contract, the wedding. He ripped up the wedding contract. He goes, you guys already blew it. I mean, this is amazing. Because in many ways, the Sinaitic covenant that was made on Mount Sinai, in many ways it was a betrothal ceremony. Yea, it's more than that, but the Lord uses a lot of that marriage language. And you think about this analogy, here's the bride. She is cheating on her husband during the wedding itself. I mean, the wedding's not even done yet, and she's cheating on him right in front of him. I mean, the Lord is still on the mountain in fire. And right in front of him, in full sight of the bridegroom, she's cheating with a bull god, an Egyptian bull god. So, I always say if you've been betrayed, if you've been hurt, don't feel bad. The Lord himself, his bride, actually cheated on the very wedding itself. And so he shatters the marriage covenant, and then he destroys the idol. He burns it because it would have been a wooden idol covered with gold. He grinds that thing up. He takes the ashes and he puts it in the water from the stream that ran down the mountain, which if you go there, you'll see there's a clear riverbed coming down the mountain. There was even some small pools of water as we were coming down. It wasn't the right time of year for it to flow, but at times it does. And then he made the people drink it. He made the people drink it and ingest it. And by doing so, the Lord made it clear that the only thing left of their God, this thing they were just bowing to a few hours before, is that from there forward it would be nothing more than human waste on the ground. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing they said, this is the God that led us out of Egypt. And then the Lord said, where's your gods now? Where are your gods now?
Yeah, that's they could get the gold back if they wanted to mine through their old religious system to get it back. But that's all that's left of the religious system is heaps on the ground.
Yeah. And you can see after that, the Lord often says that he's a jealous God, right? He's jealous God. The jealousy of God is not like the jealousy of man, but it's also not entirely different, because it's interesting that after this great betrayal that you see repeatedly, do this because your God is a jealous God.
All right.
And it's like, any marriage that gets broken and there's betrayal, it can be forgiven, they can move on, but there's always that residual wounding. And it's almost as though from there forward, the Lord's like, look, there was this deliberate thing. Don't give yourself over to the foreign gods. Don't do it because your God is a jealous God.
Now, what happens at the end of this is that Moses is told by the Almighty, I want you to hew out 2 stones. I want you to 2 tablets of stone, like the first ones, and bring them up to me. And that he would write the same commandments on those tables of stone. And this is where we see, as Paul deals with this thing, is that this is the representation of Moses presenting the tablets of his heart now to write the same commandments on. And this is a picture of the renewed covenant as it technically is. It's the covenant that was made with us at Mount Sinai, the covenant that we are offered to be priests and kings, the covenant which we broke and incurred the death penalty, that Yeshua paid the death penalty, and now we, like Moses, bring the tablets of our heart, and he writes the same commandments on them. That's how we know that someone's been born of the Spirit, that they've been begotten again, that the Torah is written on their hearts, and it's such a fantastic story.
Yeah. These are, in a lot of ways, again, I liken them to the wedding vows. Here's the wedding vows, and they stand before the mountain. They say, I do, I agree, I do. And then the Ark of the Covenant, what's the whole purpose of the Ark of the Covenant? Is to keep the marriage certificate, to house the marriage certificate so that they'll remember what the terms of that contract were, and it would house that forever. And this is the very foundation of the entire story of redemption. And this is where it all begins.